Three, two, one. Okay, it says we're live. Brian, welcome to you and welcome everybody else, all the listeners in America and beyond. I have a fascinating guest with me. His name is Brian Tseng. Am I saying it correctly? The T is silent?
That's right. That's right. It's basically an Americanization of a Mandarin or Taiwanese Chinese name, Tseng. And then my dad, I guess, decided to set on Sang with a silent T.
Interesting. We have so many different ways that we do things. No, it's hard for people to follow, but I'm glad that you were able to, put us in place here. Anyway, we have to talk a little bit, and you have this fascinating event coming up, and I basically want to say the guest and the lineup are phenomenal. I want to say that. So I feel like this is like kind of like a promo for you to get on to the people the best way you can, so we can inform them on who's going to be there, the dates, etc. Whatever you would like to talk about that way, and then after we can do whatever you feel like doing. But let me just go to my thing here. I had it and it disappeared. You know how things like that. Hey, you are live. I'm watching you. All right, let me just do this real quick here. Feel like kind of like, you failure. What are you doing? It's nothing you can do about technology. When it disappears, it disappears. So this is what you called and named the 2024 Full Disclosure Now Conference. Why'd you pick that name?
Because a lot of people I consider in the disclosure movement are on generally the side of what I call like the laser beams and Buck Rogers and ETs, the fun stuff that I put under the disclosure category. The full part, that's all the stuff that is very hardcore censored. That's the negative ETs and the deals that they've cut with our governments, the US government, among others. I'm talking about like the 1954 Greada Treaty with
Right.
President Dwight Eisenhower, which, according to Laura Eisenhower, a good friend and one of the presenters at our conference, a lot of that was signed behind his back. And it was a terrible deal for humanity. Those grays that his administration signed that agreement with were really secretly proxies for the Draco reptilians. And so we thought we were signing a more neutral contract for science and exchange of some humans for limited experimentation, and it was anything but. So the full part is also the ritual abuse part, and when the people in power, the cabal, the Illuminati types, harming children for ritualistic and occult purposes, that's also part of the full disclosure part. And then also we have, I'd say our conference, when you look at our lineup, we're like 80% hard, full disclosure, disclosure from the bottom up, whistleblowing and giving the testimonies of the people who have made it through to the other side of these programs. No thanks to the people kidnapping them as children. And all of that needs to be real for this to be undone. And then about 20% of our lineup is then on the ascension side. This is the spiritual aspects of Earth and humanity as we ascend in vibration and understanding. And as years go by, I'd like it to be maybe, instead of 80-20, it'll be 70-30, 60-40, 50-50. As time goes by, I'd like to be able to focus more on ascension and less on disclosing the truth. But that's where we are today, Michael.
Okay, well, that makes perfect sense because of everything that we're all looking at. What Laura Eisenhower's book represents is just fascinating beyond words because the truths come out in these elements, and she is part of a family of truth. But I think her grandfather got a bad rap in a way. I think this came from an earlier predecessor who was involved, maybe by the name of Truman. I could be wrong, but when you do things like this, like we all have, and we've all been taught by each other with informative information, we come to conclusions that, for this just to happen the way it did, it doesn't seem feasibly correct. But we do know that this exists, that there was some type of paper document that was signed. And this was all about what I call the abduction 911. David Politis talks about it as 411, but I think he came around to the narrative that I was talking about for years, not getting the same type of attention that he was. He's a rock star in what he does. I talk about multiple things. He concentrates and focuses on one. And I think that was a good part of his element. And he really helped what we were trying to strive to come out and say and do. So it's pretty crazy. Too bad you couldn't have David there with Laura. But so you have a great lineup, nevertheless. And the lineup consists of how many people?
Oh, geez. I'd say right now it's about 37 presenters and people doing workshops. And this is our first year throwing this event. And we are on par with Contact in the Desert almost in their 10th official year. And then I do consider us I see Contact as a sister event, and I very much have loved attending the last 2 years now. And I also see the Journey to Truth guys with Aaron Kuhn and Tyler Koala as very much being like I'm proud to call myself a peer to them. It's in the disclosure movement. They're doing amazing work. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I was trying to focus on how do I present a name that gives an analogy of I'm getting a double voice. That's why I'm trying to pause myself. Okay, yeah, we're getting a double voice. Do you have a speaker on loud behind you somehow?
I'm going to try to mute myself while I'm not talking, and hopefully that'll help.
Okay. All right. So I don't quite remember exactly where I was going with that, but anyway, okay. So we'll just move on from that part of it to where
we talk a legacy and Laura Eisenhower and the legacy of secrecy is what I think you were talking.
A little bit. I think I was going to go in a different direction, but you know how you get a little older, you get one of those mind bleeps. That's part of my 65 syndrome, as I call it now. As I get older. But I'm really happy you've been able to get out there and, affiliate yourself with all these great people. And you're going to have a great lineup, as you said, with workshops everywhere. So what we're going to try to do to help as much as we can here outside of just generalizing conversation is try to get them out there to at least the 200 groups that we know surround the people, the better people who really are looking forward to this type of information and new information that probably many of your speakers are waiting to disclose at the event. And, for me, I think where I was going was I was trying to say that I was trying to look for when I created like What's in the Skies because of my own experiences and what I had to deal with was trying to focus on America, disclosing for America, uncensored, full, like you are. We're so much alike. And I thought to myself, he's doing exactly what I've been trying to do for all this time. And what better way to help somebody out but to do this the same way. But yeah, so, Laura had a lot of really good, valid points. I promoted her book for her the best that I could. I had Brad on. Brad was informative to me on certain things as well. So with that said, we know this is going to be fascinating. I know it's going to be fascinating. What we want to do is try to get a buzz out there to the Facebook, YouTube scenario, Rumble, people out there who are looking for the information. Where in Florida is this taking place?
So it's at St. Pete Beach. That's just west of Tampa. That's the Gulf side on the west coast, southwest part of Florida. And it's the middle of July next month from the 15th to the 18th. So that's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 4 days and nights of presentations, special event dinners, workshops, CE5 meditation groups on the beach to call in some UFOs, music and dancing, and then, just hanging out on the beach during the daytime and having a great time. And, a big part of conference, not only do we want to have it in a beautiful place where A lot of the people coming to the conference could obviously enjoy some of this beautiful nature that we have in our country here, but also we have a strong organizing and networking component. So, for example, through this, we've got a local group to St. Petersburg, Florida. That's local to St. Pete Beach. They're kind of synonymous. That does, they're about 400 members strong, and they meet up once a month to do CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind protocols to, call in friendly UFOs, to fly in the skies. There's people who are doing things like shining laser beams and flashlights up into the sky, and they're getting a response. In addition to Laura talked about this, Lily Nova just wrote a whole book about this and her CE5 methodologies. We're also so with groups like that, we're going to link them up with people in the area who are, the psychics and the healers and the contactees, together with people like Drago Reed, who also lives in the Tampa area. He's more on the secret space program, super soldier side of things. And by linking people up, I mean, how great a CE5 will you have when you not only have the people who are meeting up every month to do the meditations, but now you got people who are more contactees, coming in, meeting with them. People are more psychically gifted. Now you're qualitatively shifting what the quality of the group by adding different elements and maybe getting people to support each other. There are people who own businesses locally and they need employees. A lot of people who are out of jobs in the Starseed community who've been kind of left high and dry, who could use good employment. Let's link those people up so we could just meet our day-to-day needs. But then off of that, we're going to find people who maybe remember each other from being in the programs, or maybe people who can help assist one another. The healers can help some of the people who are recovering their traumatic memories, and on and on and on. And so we have a very goal-oriented conference that's very much about organizing the full disclosure movement and not just, gathering together once a year to have fun, which, I've got nothing wrong with that, but we definitely are mission oriented, if you will.
Yeah, you have a direction and you're looking to pretty much attack it head on, but in a good way, in the light of the essence of everything. It's really funny. I was just trying to place this. I don't know. I guess we're the naughty men, I guess, tonight, because it's not giving a lot of placement this evening. As you said, you've been having problems. Of course, I have. They've been trying to strangle my numbers, things like that. So we're running into a little bit of, it's saying it's showing up, but when we go in to verify that it did show up, it's not there. Or it must have just shot to the bottom somehow, But we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out, and we'll work on that a little bit if I have to after the show. It doesn't matter. But all right, so the CE5 and that's there. I think I, by accident myself, experienced exactly what that was all about. And I, for months, tried to tell myself, why me? Why at this point in time? Why did this happen? And the truth of the matter is, just a short story for you. It's lengthy, but it's not real lengthy. I'm sitting in front of a fire outside of my camp where I do a lot of wood shop carving with a chainsaw, making little bears and birds. I'm not the greatest, but it's a pastime for a guy getting older who wants to have a craft, under his belt. And I decided to look in the fields in the pasture, because I would scout for deer or bear, just whatever. Or why is it so silent? Is there something out? Is it a Bigfoot? Is it Dogman? Whatever. And I decided, for whatever reason, to look up at the stars, and I did. It was a relatively clear night, which is impressively amazing in Pennsylvania, because we are fundamentally one of the heaviest treated aerosol scenarios in the United States. At least one of them, but like they don't want us to see something. I don't know. This may be exactly why. I always knew there was a certain spot in the sky where I would see nothing turn into something. And I would say to myself, okay, are they just satellites turning on, being activated? I'm seeing movement. What are they? So I decide to use this light. Click, 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 click. It has like 3 or 4 modes, and I do it. And I did it once and didn't pay much attention. And then as I'm sitting there looking into the fire and just listening, I have this suspicion of feeling something inside of me saying, look to your left. So I'm sitting here like this. This would be my left, opposite on screen. And suddenly, and I have a huge driveway. I really do. I have a huge driveway. This beacon of light, a round circular light, is covering like the whole driveway, and it illuminates, and then it like puts on the dimmer and it goes back into like a normal type of lighting event. And I'm thinking, what the, and I mean, here you are, you're sitting in front. I've seen other things in my life, but I never had an up and close, throw a rock at it, hit it, encounter kind of thing. It was always in distance. What was that? What is it? That question. Well, here it is. It's right in front of me. And I decide, and I don't even know, Brian, I don't even know what made me do it. Click, click, click. I go through 3 modes of like low, medium, high, and infrared off. It does it again. An intelligence is present. And I'm like, oh, cool. So in 1 minute of my life, right then in that moment, says, do it again. And I did it. And it illuminated brighter, but it was never a brightness that was overpowering. It was like a softer light. It was like the bottom of, I could describe, if you took a basketball, cut it in half, it was kind of like that, but I couldn't honestly say to you that it was like this. It could have been flat like the earth. I'm just joking. Everybody has a view on that, but I had to throw it in. So anyway, at that point, I'm like, all right, there's people in the house. I got to call. Somebody's got to come out here and see me seeing this. And I did that, and nobody heard me. And while I'm thinking, why isn't nobody coming out? I get the chills like on, the back of my neck and all this. And I think to myself, what did you get yourself into? And I tell this story quite often to people because it really factually happened to me. I don't know why, when I was looking for the intelligence response, by accident, it happening and me wanting it more kind of like freaked me out at the same time. But it was like it knew that it did it to me. Because in that moment, when I thought in my mind, like I had a certain fear of the incident happening, it just vanished. I didn't hear it. I didn't see it vanish. The light went out. I would say within 30 seconds, I started to realize the size and enormity of it due to the fact that I could see the star structure return. But I never understood, is this a good intelligence, a bad intelligence? But in some way, I think that it was something good because of how I felt. They picked up on my emotions and the fear that I put upon myself, and that happening. And this is now what I'm understanding that CE5 is all about.
Yeah, let me give you a rundown of that. Basically, it sounds like they were definitely friendlies. They were flying over, the Earth, and you spotted them. Maybe because you're constantly seeing lights in the same part of the sky. For whatever reason, it's a high traffic point. There might be a portal or some kind of base nearby that's attracting them. And then once you shined your light at them and you got their attention, they're telepathic. So it sounds like they kind of tuned in on you. They came by to say hello. To them, humans who are actively trying to communicate with them and aren't freaking out and acting in fear, and who can handle contact, to them, in communicating with you, I would interpret that as they're also in a way activating you, perhaps activating light codes, activating you to the knowingness that we're not alone. It sounds like if they telepathically interacted with you, They say, hey, look up to your left. It's like the more practice you get with telepathy, apparently the stronger your telepathy is going to be. So I think that they took the opportunity when you shined your light to say hi. They were more than delighted to say hello to a human being who is open and accepting and vibrating at a high enough level that you can interact positively with them. That would be my interpretation.
Well, yeah, and I'm not going to disagree with you. Like I said, it was just one of those magical moments that one has in their life where they know what they're seeing is reality, and there's no questioning that. But you can go from one, as I did, aspect of it, of feeling just wonderful that something was there, and in a heartbeat, something, and I don't know why or how, unless it was the fact that it was a sense to me that nobody could hear me. And I actually got questioned on that part. Was like, was there missing time involved there? And I can't honestly say I could ever say that's factually true. Now, I've talked to people, I know people that do, you know, hypnotic regression and so forth. I'm going to be somewhere in May with Maria Wheatley and Dennis Stone. They do a lot of Stonehenge and things like that. And I'm going to hang out with her and see if she'll do it, because I have questions that may need answer. I don't know. So it's going to be fun. And that's going to be a fun event coming up in May. So keep tuned to that too. And we're going to get back to again with Brian Tseng, who is here, and he's representing the 2024 full conference, disclosure conference. It's going to be in St. Pete's Beach for a 4-day and 4-night with all type of events and speakers, 37. You want to turn on your microphone again? And do you want to bring anything up on the screen yet?
Yeah. Let me present my screen, Michael.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to share screen. Share my screen. Second screen. I'm going to allow. So this is my conference website. FullDisclosureMovement.org is for our conference. And we've got a little bit more than 3 weeks and 2 days until our event. And the understanding is that we need to have full disclosure in order for us to secure our Star Trek future. As long as we're being lied to that there's no such thing as clean energy or anti-gravity or medical beds, we're never going to get them, okay? Because we won't even know to ask or demand them. And a lot of this technology has been developed with stolen taxpayer monies. So it's not like we're asking for anything that doesn't already really belong in the public domain. Our speakers are everyone from kind of like the old school people who've been reporting on the secret space program since the 90s. This includes Miles Johnston of the Basis Project out of the UK, and Carrie Cassidy with Project Camelot here out of the US, to the secret space program survivors and experiencers themselves, whether Penny Bradley, Tony Rodriguez, Laura Eisenhower, Daryl James, Arkeem Ra, Chris O'Connor, Susan Long, Drago Reed, Mario Maharez, Audrey Walters, Anthony Zender and Alyssa Zender, Alondra Markman, Nate Gray, and Carl Dory. All of those people are people who have been in through the programs, probably to one extent or another. To people like Yeme Genet of the Farsight Institute, or Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. Both of these ladies are very, very skilled remote viewers, and both of them have done blind remote viewing to verify a lot of the testimonies that people like Tony Rodriguez, for example. And the Farsight Institute, they did a big series on blind scientifically remote viewing Tony's book, Series Colony Cavalier, in which he details how he was, as a child, he went to a private boarding school. He kind of made the wrong kid angry at school because that kid's father is one of these Illuminati cabal types with access to the secret space programs. And the next couple of days later, Tony as a child, got kidnapped into one of these 20 and back programs where they could literally kidnap you for 20 years and then transfer your consciousness back in time and put you back in your body 20 years ago after wiping your memories. These are known as 20 and backs.
Right.
People ask why.
Corey Good was not so wrong on that, huh?
Well, the deal with Corey Good is that he was testifying and whistleblowing on real things on secret space programs. And then with Gaia TV, somehow they got into a big intellectual property fight. And so Corey, as a legal maneuver, turned it into an intellectual property fight over like writing books and stuff. And while he discredited the entire movement, he was able to try to secure a legal victory for himself. I don't know the status of that case. All I can say is that it makes the entire community look bad, while people like Corey Good, press lawsuits.
I just remember back in the day, David Wilcox bringing him into the kind of like format of the light, and he was actually speaking on a lot of these things. And I think people didn't have a really good acceptance or the ability of conscious yet. Being awake enough to say, I can believe that this could be possible. And I'm not hanging for the guy in a good or bad way. I'm just sharing with you something that came to light in my mind. But what you have here, I mean, like the new Ingo Swan. What we have now.
Yeah, Ingo Swan being one of the earlier pioneers of scientific remote viewing with the Stanford Research Institute, and people like Russell Targ. I got to meet him at a Contact in the Desert briefly this year. He's definitely getting up there in the years. I mentioned the 20 and back programs. The reason why it tends to be 20-year cycles is because Earth scientists, when they were fiddling with early time travel experimentation with the Philadelphia experiment, and then later Project Phoenix, also known as the Montauk Project, and also researching alongside Brookhaven National Labs there on the east end of Long Island. Brookhaven's more central Long Island, and Camp Hero Montauk is the east end of Long Island. They discovered that Earth's kind of time signature, if you will, or waves frequency moves in a natural 20-year rhythm. And then so that's where the 20-year cycles comes from.
Interesting. And I know this is going to be mind-blowing for a lot of people to sit there and just suck up and absorb all this information, as these wonderful speakers are going to be able to, rub elbows with them and give them a direct audience enlightenment. And of course, too, like through the 4 days, you could probably bump into anybody, rub elbows with anybody while you're there. You never know who's going to be sitting across from you at dinner. Think about all these wonderful people that are going to be there who you have the opportunity to meet and maybe ask the question to privately. You don't know. Everybody has a good, kind heart that's in this community, and they're doing this because they believe in what we are all striving for. The things that David Grunge had tried to bring forward. And I am from Pittsburgh, and I do know a lot of people in Pittsburgh. And I'm not going to say who I know or what I learned, but I will say this. There's a lot behind him, because even when it comes to David, a lot of people were skeptical in ways, and he's a plant. Well, if he's a plant, he sure told the world a mouthful. And that's why I kind of jokingly put what's in disguise from my skiff. It's because I do have a little bit of insight from some good people. I met Stanton Friedman pumping gas into his car when I was a child. So my life has been on a path, and I don't even know why, but it started like over 50 years ago. I was pumping gas at my father's filling station. I think I was like around 14, something like that. And it was getting close to midnight. The streets were starting to get quiet back in the day, less cars on the road, et cetera, et cetera. And I had no clue who he was, but somehow he knew my grandfather. And that was why he come to that place He was, hey, I'm going to support my friend's family and buy my gas there and so forth. And I started to talk to him at a young age, and he just like put a he lit me on fire in a certain way, which, I've been on this path ever since, and it's been remarkable. And that's why I'm trying to, do anything I can for you. There's Stanton. There he goes. He looks a little bit different from when I first met him, but and I do miss him. But again, he wasn't a lifelong friend. He was a constituent while he was in the Pittsburgh vicinity working and so forth. I was able to, kind of like, so to say, rub elbows with him when they literally gave people like $25 to do a talk show on the radio. And he would tell me, hey, listen, kid, is how he put it to me. Hey, listen, kid, later this evening, they're going to do a replay tonight. I'm on that show. Listen to it. And I would listen to him, when I knew he would be on, or I would wait to try to hear it, because I think he was one of the very first on radio talk show hosts that was trying to give us disclosure. And his credibility and his background was remarkable. Very intelligent, very brilliant.
Well, Michael, you mentioned rubbing elbows with people. We're going to be beginning our 4-day extravaganza. We actually have a sister event known as Day of Being 4.0. And this is our 4th year of gathering free of charge at the beach. It's instead of just Saturday, July 13th, this year it's going to be Saturday and Sunday. And so it's an entire beach weekend of star seeds and light workers. Here, I'll share my screen here.
Sure.
It's known as Day of Being 4.0. It's only about a 24-minute drive just up the way from where our event's going to be. So this is our sister event. A lot of people actually are flying in or driving down to Florida for that Saturday and Sunday free beach weekend. We're all going to hang out together, barbecue, drum circles, and organize and network and chit chat on the beach. And then we're going to go into our 4 days and nights of presentations and more formal conference at the Serrata Beach Resort. So a lot of different groups are really coming together. And while I'm on this here, we're going to have a healers, psychics, and readers gallery, because in the secret space program, super soldier community, the military abductees, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of repressed or wiped memories. And a lot of our friends here in the Healers and Readers Gallery are very good at assisting others in recovering their memories, in addition to healing their bodies. So that's a big part of it. You mentioned like synchronicity.
That's a good part. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like jump over you, but because even like me, I have so many things I still wonder about. I can imagine how many people have not yet been heard.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton. So many people out there across the world have been taken apparently into these programs one way or another, and they don't even know about it.
Right.
And what we find is that when people get together and they can help each other recover memories, because a lot of this stuff, it's really hard to recover memories. It might be buried under trauma. You might have screen memories. This happened to people decades ago when they were children. So there's definitely a process there. And the initial stages don't tend to be pretty. They tend to be pretty traumatic and life-altering. And often the people in one's own family, immediate family, don't understand. And so we tried to price this event to be very affordable. I mean, 4 days and nights, general admission is $420, at a premium beach resort, Florida, in the summertime. We have pretty reasonable day passes. And then the VIP tickets, they include 3 of the special event dinners, which are going to be great. We're going to have a special panels and humorous Ask Me Anything panel, a remote viewers and SS peers, secret space programmers panel. We're going to have a huge blowout costume party dinner and ball. That's going to be a lot of fun for the last night. And then, we made live stream tickets only $55. This early bird. We might go up to $77. But, when you compare this pricing to the other conferences, we are more than reasonable. And for this lineup, we want to provide the most bang for the buck to our attendees, the vendors, the presenters, and the whole world.
And you know what, for your first year, and this just being the setup of it, the layout's wonderful. Again, you have some remarkable speakers that are going to be there, and you're setting it up in a way where workshops are going to be beneficial to anybody that wants to be involved with that. You don't see that quite. You see it, but you don't see it, I don't think, on the scale that you present.
Well, I kind of want to point out here that what makes us different. Not only are we about hardcore disclosure, and the Journey Truth guys are, and I say we're right there with them. We're really bringing something, I think, to the disclosure movement that is new and it's fresh. We're not gatekeeping anyone. You go to some of these conferences, not Rebels of Disclosure, Journey to Truth, by the way, they're great. But you can go to some of these other places and speak to even some of the people who are organizing some of these events. And, they'll agree with you about UFOs and, thermal imaging and night vision cameras and scientific evidence. And, but once you talk to them about secret space programs and deep underground military bases and reptilians and time travel, you're going to get an eye roll. And getting an eye roll from people within the UFO disclosure community is enraging. It pisses me off so much. It's kind of like, of all the people who should be, sympathetic or empathetic, or at least, more open-minded, I feel like I'm going up to like a Fox Mulder, I want to believe guy, and then I'm getting eye rolled because what I'm saying is too crazy for Fox Mulder. And it's kind of like, come on, Fox, are we always going to be in the days of, these UFOs are flying around and who knows who's flying them and what they want? If you speak with other people, survivors of these programs, ET contactees of both positive and negative ETs, they'll tell you who they are. They're the Palladians, the Rigelians, the Arcturians, the Syrians, the Vegans, and what faction of some of these different groups and how their craft are powered and what their agenda is. That's a totally different world away from, someday we're going to have enough scientific evidence of the UFOs in our skies and we'll get high enough HD resolution video that will prove that there's something flying around up there. You know what I mean? Can you see the difference? Like, we're not the same.
Right. And there's proof all over the place if you really look at it. The Baltic Sea anomaly, I truly, in heart, and everything that I've been able to ever find out is that there's something logically real down there. But, it goes beyond that, too. I mean, when we look at technology and where we are, I found information that said this doesn't have anything to do with, flying objects, but we actually had early submarines before 1880, because now people are finding these crashes and they're bringing up bits and pieces of them. And we're finding out that the dates that are manufactured on some of the parts went out of business before 1880. So how do you say that the thing under the water, our technology has been hidden from us, as you know. A lot of people say, in many ways, when we just have normal discussions, that, we were just horse and buggy 100 years ago. And that's truly not true when you look at these megalithic structures and the facts that there was something taking place way before we ever opened our eyes to it. But again, we're in a different place now because of technology having a positive plus, but it's not always a positive plus, because with information, disinformation needs to interact with it so it can be left somewhere in the middle without balance, where people are still in that same position to always think that, I won't believe it until I see it. Well, I mean, you'll have that, but that's where the research comes in. That's what you're bringing into this whole. Basically, you could call it a live formal documentary of Disclosure Now conference that's going to bring people into the light of some of these really hard to answer questions. Because when you talk about this, the super space programs and all these different things that are going on, there's a commonality that we are actually working with the rest of the world governments to do all this. And they're all in cahoots on it in many ways of everything, even now that's going on, plus. So, I take my hat off to you and I commend you for what you're doing. And that's why, when we started to talk and you sent that to me, I said, wow, this would be really great because I have talking to some of these people and others. And it would be nice to rub elbows with them, and say hello, sitting a couple rows back and give them a wave. Hey, guess I'm here. I made it, because I don't get to make a lot of things. I really don't. It's just my life. I'm very busy person. And my dedication to the shows are because I want to help people. I don't want nothing else but to help people and be a platform that gives information. And that's what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Michael. The way we're approaching it is from the top down, not the bottom up. I mean, you mentioned Dave Grush earlier. I only wish we got invited to the Pentagon to do press conferences, and they paid for the buffet. That'd be great. No, I think the days of plausible deniability are over, and the days that the truth is revealed to us. To me, this is the number one priority on this planet. Everyone who bemoans homelessness or environmental pollution or war, well, with disclosure, all of that can go away. When we have clean energy, we don't need to fight in the Middle East for oil. When we have anti-gravity, all of a sudden transportation, that totally changes and opens up. We don't need to plow freeways over everywhere, running over people's homes and farmland. That changes. Medical technology, I mean, that goes without saying how that changes the world when everyone can be, regenerated to a 30-year-old body, 100% healthy. All the environmental toxins are removed. All of these are game changers. And then, of course, I mean, I'm kind of talking about the gee whiz technological things, free energy, anti-gravity, medical. But really, we started this off with spiritual evolution of humanity, because when we know the truth of what's happening to us, we can now live in truth, not living in a vibration of lies, which you can only vibrate so high if you're living a lie.
Right.
How are we approaching this? We're doing a huge conference to present as much as we can to as much of the world as possible. But having said that, our job is not to get into debates with the flat earthers or the people who, no matter what you tell them, they don't want to believe it. They're not going to believe it. I joke a UFO could land on them, and they're still not going to believe it. Okay. And we're not going to argue with fools. What we're looking to do is taking the people who know what's really going on, our presenters for this conference, for example, and really rally the people who are the most kind of advanced forward thinking sections of the population, who know that this is happening. They know we're being lied to. They need to have more information and more details. And as we kind of rally the people who have the eyes to see and the ears to listen, we become stronger as a movement. And then the people who are kind of sitting on the fence, well, it becomes a lot easier for them to shift towards us. And then, hey, maybe even some of the people where a UFO craft had to land on their head for them to get it, maybe, towards the end there, we'll get some of them too. And that would be beautiful. We'll take everyone we can.
Oh, I don't blame you. And I believe this is exactly the reason that I do what I try to do. I try my best to do and deliver exactly what you're saying, because this is how disclosure works. It truly does. I've been with a lot of people, talked a lot of shop with them, and had great people on the shows. to where, before in the green room, you have these little chats, and while the show's going on, or the podcast, whatever one wants to call it, you find out a lot. And, me, I take notes on everything. I really do. I have notepads this thick that I've been collecting data in, trying to understand it. And because I think we have a lot of special gain points. The Jackie Gleason story and Nixon. I mean, there's things that you can dive into that are with very credible people with credible stories behind them. As we go into this new age of technology, I think it would ease us, as you said, not living in the negativity of the lie, but knowing the outcome and the future. Maybe we would understand and agree with a little bit more with both sides arguing, because we would understand why we are headed in these directions. And I do believe, in my mind, and I don't know if you're going to have anybody there besides Carrie that might talk about this. Carrie's pretty vocal. She's had on some really rock stars, from Bob O'Dean and William Tompkinson, and all these fascinating people that no one could get. Carrie always seemed to get them on Camelot, and she didn't hold back. It was, all bars, whatever you call that, and she went at it with them. She really tried to get clarity and dig deep into the system. But when you have guys like Bob O'Dean from Project Shock that read these manuals, that understood, that tells us a lot of the proofs of 1956, where our technologies were, what our capabilities were, and where some of these destroyers may have been refurbished to do something more purposeful that had nothing to do within the water anymore, but maybe in the air and in the atmosphere. But, again, I think it's going to be remarkable. And you made a great presentation tonight to tell people where it's going to be, what's going on. Is there anything else that you would like to add into it, to make sure that you dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's?
Yeah, I love to. Thank you, Michael. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to all our viewers. We're now at a time where, for decades and decades, everyone in ufology and in the disclosure movement was like hunting for, seeds of grain thrown into the grass, and we're hunting and pecking. The Jackie Gleason Nixon story, the Greada Treaty, FOIA papers or leaked whistleblower documents on Majestic 12. And that I kind of call that like the X-Files I want to believe days, when it's like we're like kind of grasping at like little pieces flying around us. These days, there's such a huge preponderance of evidence. There's so many documents, so many whistleblowers, so many people like William Tompkins, who you mentioned, coming out, giving the blow-by-blow, as documented by Dr. Michael Sala of exopolitics.org, for example, where he's got 80 years of documentation from, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and the Roswell incident all the way up until now, and other documentation. And so we're no longer, for the people seriously in the field, all this information is at our fingertips, in part thanks to the technology. Now by enabling us to live stream like this, we don't have to wait for Art Bell or George Norrie, to fire up the FM transmitter or AM for us to listen to them at 2 a.m. anymore.
Right.
We are the movement. We are the disclosure. You can find me on Facebook, Brian Tseng, Tseng, like up on the screen here, but I'm being heavily shadow banned by Facebook Meta and all the algorithms. They don't like people talking about disclosure in a coherent manner, organizing very presentable whistleblowers who are very respectable and carry some weight in the community. So if you put in Brian Tseng and SolarBee, that's kind of my nickname or call sign on Facebook. Brian Tseng, the SolarBee. Please send me a friend request and message me. Let me know if and how you'd like to participate in the movement. Maybe you have a testimony to share. Maybe you know someone with a testimony. Maybe you're an eccentric millionaire and you like to help fund the movement. Maybe you're a combination of those things. Maybe you've got desktop publishing skills, or you're skilled video and audio editor. Any of that is incredibly important and helpful. And so, I look forward to hearing from anyone who'd like to reach out to me. I want to be accessible. When I got into this movement only about a year ago, I made it a point not to come in and be a fanboy and geek out. Oh my God, it's Laura Eisenhower. Like, no, it's like, okay, oh my gosh, it's Laura Eisenhower. I want to help her advance her legacy of clearing her grandfather's name and revealing the truth to humanity.
And with that said, I love how humble you are, because again, I don't think you're going to see the end of this. Though it's like you said, it's been a year. I see many more years for it to. It's just going to come. It's going to happen, and you're going to look forward to it, and you're going to be anxious to wait to be able to. I can't wait for next year to go down, for us to plan again, to re-go over, reconfigure how we did this one and how we're going to do the next one, and that will keep disclosure coming. That is how we bank on guys like you and women out there also who do some very creative skill work by having, different things in different places, whether they're on beautiful cruise ships or, somewhere in the Mojave Desert. It doesn't matter. People will
contact at the sea.
Right.
Contact at sea. You're mentioning beautiful cruises.
Right. Yeah. If people build, people will come. And I truly believe that is a legacy of truth, So you're working that, and you're right. Laura's a fascinating, great person, but you have many of them going to be on with you down there. You're being blessed in a big way because it is hard to look to somebody that is out there. It's been out there for many years, and they are, sure, I'll come down, I'll do it for you. That tells a lot about who they are as well, and what their demeanor is. And you're going to have some of the best in the world there, without a doubt. You know that already. You truly know that. I try to do anything I can to help. That's why it was really nice when you sent me that thing, and I was like, hey, I'll help you. This is what I do. I mean, what's in the skies? But I mean, what's underwater? I could have went a lot of different ways, but the point is, whatever's up does come down, and eventually we're going to see these things on the ground somewhere. I do want to ask you a couple questions though before we
I've got all the time. Go for it, Michael. And maybe next year you could be part of our 2025 conference live stream dream team on site. Who knows? It'd be great.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Maria Wheatley says to me, Michael, your worth is worth the time and effort that you feel is important that you invest into it. And she couldn't have been more right. She keeps me on a good path. We have limited words at times, but when she does present herself to me, she's a true, beautiful friend. I mean, her outlook for humanity and every individual person is in her heart. Humanity is in her heart, and that's why she does. So she's a great motivator, and I've had a lot of those type of people on. And I want to thank you for coming on too, because you're building something for yourself that's fascinating, and I do want to be a part of it. But my thing in theory is the power of the message more than the power of the numbers. I mean, I don't want the popularity. I just want people to know that there are guys out there like us that want to bring this stuff forth. And that's why I couldn't, I was, flabbergasted. Hey, I'll be glad to help you out any way I can to get the message out. So we have a little less than 30 days to the event.
Yeah. 3 weeks and 2 days. And actually a little bit less 3 weeks when you include the Day of Being Beach weekend. The free beach hangout, we're expecting like 1,000 starseeds and light workers and psychics. It's a gathering of the tribe, if you will.
That's huge.
Because I'm on I'm on social media a lot. I've got a ton of people reaching out to me, and a very common complaint is, I'm the only starseed in my region, in my town. I feel so alone. It's such a breath air to speak with you, Brian. And I always say, Bubby, you've got the internet. You've got this huge community at your fingers. Go onto my mutual friends list with you friend any of these people, and you don't have to be alone. You're surrounded by star seeds, and with the internet, you can find your fellow people who are awake and are seeing through the matrix BS that we've had foisted on us all our lives, and that's currently falling apart around us as we speak.
Right. Well, that doesn't mean we can't get these pieces and put the puzzle back together. It's the research and the work and the ideas that we have and the memories of what we learned, from very good people. Oh my God. There's just so many. And when you look at the things that have been prepared for us, and there was a generation that once did that. Lieutenant Corso. Look, mind blowing, but factually proved in my mind. Bad, poor wording there, but I mean, when you look at these guys, Paul, he was another one that just, Clifford Stone. I mean, it's mind blowing when you really look into it. And
all those people being like with the Men in Black crash retrieval type programs being
right.
very, very well documented. Absolutely. And that information, that stuff coming out from like the 50s and 60s, that information. So, I mean, come on, people, where do you think we are in 2024?
Yeah, and I mean, William Cooper was screaming about it. Phil Schneider. I mean, we have a lot of data. The problem is, there's too many storybooks out there that accompany things, and of course, when people create, words of representation, it doesn't always make us on our side look great, as the conspiracy theorist. Well, don't call him an idiot. He's just a conspiracy theorist. That's a kind way of, us just saying, let's create a word, let's create a narrative that gives it that disinformation to our advantage. But we do know so much. We do. And I
want to speak to that, Michael. This is what's missing. Because as you say, we know so much. And then you get the people who just point fingers and laugh and they don't want to believe any of it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
What we have now is the ability to formulate a pretty good understanding of the big picture. And then now, for me at least, what I'm finding is I feel I already have a pretty good understanding of the big picture. Now, for me, it's just a matter of what is the current exopolitical situation for Earth and humanity. How close are we to disclosure? Okay, how much are the negative agenda aliens, NAA is what the abbreviation for that? How much are they still large and in charge of Earth in this sector of the galaxy versus these galactic federation types who don't want to violate what's known as the Prime Directive as depicted in Star Trek, because Gene Roddenberry sat in on multiple channeling sessions back in the 60s to get this information about the Galactic Federation and what's known as the Prime Directive. Okay, and all that is coming out, and it's hard for the other side to keep muddying the waters as much as they will when enough people come out with, okay, hey, this is a big picture, this is who's who in the zoo, this is what's really going on, and this is where we are today and the direction we're headed. Now we've got a total paradigm shift in the world's understanding of the ET UFO phenomena.
Yeah.
It's no longer, oh my gosh, maybe someday we'll have enough scientific evidence. That's so old fogey for me. It's maddening.
I do think that we have certain people now that are analyzing this in a different way. I used to think in my mind, out of 100 stories, what are the possibilities of percentage that they could be extraterrestrials or interdimensionals beings who are coming into our dimension and observing. In the meantime, a lot of people, and probably over 90%, are thinking, well, I think Stephen Greer's right. I think that that So's right, that he was, and it's just us. It's us doing it. Well, if it is us, then it's probably old technology that we got, or we're working with something quite different, even more different.
Yeah, I got to jump in there.
Go ahead.
That really said everything to me when Dave Grush at the Pentagon press conference or wherever they were in front of Congress, or
Yeah.
you know, he does this whole long thing, releases all this information, and then at the end they say, "Okay, Dr. Greer, what do you think?" And he leans into the mic. He says, "There are no bad aliens. We humans, we're the bad ETs." It's like, what, dude? No. Phil Schneider is rolling, you know, spinning a turbine in his grave right now, along with Alex Collier. Alex Collier is still alive, obviously, but
Yeah, right.
Sure there are many, many, many people who would like to beg to disagree with Stephen that there's no bad ETs, and to me that doesn't even make sense. It's like saying, you know, all people are good, which would obviously be incorrect, and just as like saying all people are bad. You know, we represent a huge spectrum, and when you get out there into the vastness of space and all the planets teeming with life, you know, the understanding that there's no such thing as a bad ET, just that's just one of those lines that I feel really hurts the disclosure movement, and I don't like it.
Right. And I had a guest on a couple nights ago, Karen Wilkinson, and you know, I mean, quite honestly, I wish the way she described herself, and I think she almost broke down and cried when she was on the show with me because of her inner everything as a human being, you know, and the fear and so forth. You know, that in itself and the experimental phases of what these extraterrestrials or AI units, cyborgs, whatever you want to call them, the minions for some of these things to do these testings and so forth. And that advancement is so far superior than what we can even comprehend in many ways. But she comes out, and I don't know if you got to listen to some of her testimony, but she's been on many platforms and she's talked about this several times. It's just mind blowing that you know, if they were so good, she would have never had no pain.
Well, my perspective is like this: there's a lot of hybridization programs going on. Okay. And then you might be taken up by, say, positive ETs because you're a Palladian starseed who's incarnated on Earth, and your Palladian family comes and picks you up in a ship, and they're doing tests, and maybe they're healing you and they're monitoring you, and they drop you back off. Then you get the attention of some of these space programs, right, run by humans, and they realize, hey, you're getting picked up by the Palladians. Well, then now you get kidnapped, you know, couple weeks later by U.S. based, you know, military abduction programs, and you know now you're getting abducted by two different programs, right? And maybe one is friendly and one is very hostile and unpleasant. Okay, so now you've got the same person experiencing both sides, you know, or opposite sides of the UFO ET abduction phenomena. You know, and you're going to say, well, what's real? You know, are they all good? Are they all bad? No, it's a mix of good and bad, and it's very complicated. And so I think a lot of people looking at it from the outside, you know, they're looking at it, oh, all ETs are bad or they're demons, you know, and others are saying, oh, no, they're all good and they're just here to scientifically help us. And I'm going to say, well, no, it's a mix. It depends on, you know, who's coming and why and who they're picking up and why and what they're doing. And some of those are positive and some of those are negative. But to try to oversimplify it like Greer did, say there's no bad ETs or, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's I see that as an intentional disinformation line. I think he was probably told to say that. And I know, for example, a certain new age streaming service, you know, my good friend Johnny Enoch, they told him they wanted to, you know, buy him off and tell him to insert the message, for example, that someday humanity, we'd have to give up our sovereignty. And he said, hell no, I'm not giving that message out there. I'm not going to say that. You know, and I kind of suspect that someone probably said to Greer, hey, I want you to put this line out there. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, Maybe he believes it. I hope not. Either way, if he believes it, I think he's a fool. And if he doesn't believe it, then he's a paid disinformation agent or gatekeeper.
Yeah. Yeah, that would not be such a good gatekeeper. I mean, because there's enough of us who are good. But again, I'm in total agreement with you on your logic behind everything that you just said. I totally agree with it. But we do see this scenario of how these things are done. I myself, at one point, and I'm not saying that I think I was being contacted by somebody that was of a certain whatever status, but they as well said, if you want to do well, we can help you do well. I saved it. I still have it. I screenshot it. I saved it. And kind of like the same scenario of the same thing. But you can't talk about everything you're talking about. And that's kind of how the message was to me. And I asked who it was, and it had no, I could not track it back anywhere. And every once in a while, I got one of these, a little bit different, but always quite the same, of a narrative of something that there was an agenda to be pushed in a different direction. And I'm not going to go in a different direction. I'm in this direction that I believe in. I don't believe in the other direction. And if what are we if we cannot tell the truth? I mean, we're nothing. We're no better than anything else that's in the existence. But you're absolutely right, 100% unequivocally. When we look at everything, there's a good and bad demeanor. Doesn't matter what it is. It's a commonality that is focused through everything. You have one good portion of product and productivity of information, and on the other hand, you got the disinformation that blows it out of the park into a different direction. And for me to stay stable in it is to try not to accept everything I hear or follow everything I hear, because sometimes to me, I think that I don't want outer influences. Not that I don't believe that there are really great people who could educate me, but I don't want their influences to become their words coming through my microphone.
Here's my advice on that. I personally, as an investigator, try to listen to all the data, pardon me, if you will, that comes my way. And then instead of just outright discounting it and saying, oh, that's garbage and throw it all away, what I do is I'll assign it a weighted value. Hey, I think William Tompkins is super well documented. A ton of people coming out of the woodwork. I give him like a 9 or a 10 for confidence. And then, Greer, I'm going to give him a 1, but I'm not just going to discount him. I'm going to say I'm going to give him a 1 because I feel like he's spreading disinformation because there are people behind him. And I add that to the data instead of just discounting him and wiping him from my memory. And I find in doing that, as I get all the data and I can assign it relative weighting, of value, then I'm able to put together a picture that gives me context. And for me, context is king. It's like, why are they picking up these people? When you know why they're picking up people and what the programs are about and what they're trying to achieve, now it all makes sense. We're no longer looking at little pieces of a jigsaw puzzle with a magnifying glass. We're able to kind of take a step back and see how all the moving pieces jive together.
Right. So what jives for you when I make a suggestion, a statement as a question? Crash retrievals. How far would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 do you believe that has occurred?
I mean, that for me is up there at the 10 because of all the Majestic 12, the ET, the Russian Yellow Book. It's like the whistleblowers who come out talk about grays on military bases that they telepathically communicated with. For some reason where the same pictures are emerging. Gray beings, some of them are extra biological entities, some of them are biological, but they are in the gray form, short, medium, and tall. Reptilians, good and bad, from the Draco Siakar winged nasty ones to friendly reptilians, because not all reptilians are bad, to the Palladians and the Nordics, to the testimony of Maria Orsic and the Vril Society going back to World War II.
Yeah.
All these themes are common over and over. Grays, reptilians, attractive blonde people. There's a reason for that over and over and over. After a while, it tells me, well, the reason why people are seeing the same things over and over is because that's who's who in the zoo. We're in the ocean and we're seeing sharks over and over. After a while, yeah, I'm going to believe in sharks. I don't need to argue about it. I'm not going to jump in the water with a gash on my leg, bleeding blood, to prove to you that sharks exist. You want to do that, you go for it. But I know sharks exist. I've seen sharks. People have talked about sharks. My dad got eaten by a shark. After a while, I don't. There's no more doubt. And that's where I'm at. I think that's where you're at, or closer to that. And there's definitely a gap, but that's why we start with the people who have eyes to see and ears to hear. I'm not going to argue with someone, to convince them. If I need to argue with you to convince you, no, I'm not going to do your thinking for you. And I'm always challenged to do that. The devil's advocate, and I call it. I like to play angel's advocate. They keep asking, well, what about this? What about this? And I'll always reverse it. Well, what about the hundreds of years of, photographic and eyewitness evidence of stuff in our sky? It's like, what about that? And turn it around on them. Yeah. Because now is the time when we have enough information that we are no longer on the defensive. Really, we should be on the offensive.
Right. I can remember talking to Jim Goodall, and his commanding officer said that he had to. He tried engaging once upon a time with them. Talking to Bob Lazar, part of his documentation on the model that he was working, where the element 115 was within that scenario, was actually of an ancient artifact found. And then you have the name of the Vimanas and things like that. And then you have the Foo Fighters. And these men, women, and strong humans with good intent and thought cannot all be wrong.
Well, once you touch upon Vimanas, you're talking about the historical record. We've got paintings and, like hieroglyphs and like statuettes and stone sculptures depicting flying machines. And then it's written about things like the Bhagavad Gita and the Ugaritic texts. There's a reason for that. And then in the Bible, right, the Elohim were probably the Anunnaki, the beings coming from the sky. So it's not like this stuff isn't documented. I like to tell people, and someone else online, Ace Left out of Ireland, I believe, beautiful gal, was making this comment. If you don't believe in conspiracy theories, it's only because you don't apparently know how to read.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I think when you mentioned a few things prior to me rambling as I do, it makes me wonder, what world governments have accomplished on their own and how far the Germans were more advanced than the United States, and some of the scenarios of what they did, trying to use remote viewing and different types of drugs and so forth, to try to open up a world of contact and context of a different way of information, as a human computer, because we really are. We have something that no computer has. And that's because we're human. We have senses and we have feelings and we have love and we have hate and we know what these all feel like, but they cannot signify anything that doesn't. And I think in ways that's part of this breeding exercise that they're doing, because when I look at the whole science fictional display that has happened recently, we'll just say over the past few years recently, it's like they have a plan of a dedication for a different humanity.
Oh no, they absolutely have a plan for they want to drag us down a dark timeline, which looks very much like a transhumanist matrix scenario, and that's the two Earths that are splitting. And we're more, you and I are obviously working towards an ascension, what's known as an ascension, higher vibration timeline, where the truth is revealed. And it seems like both are going to happen per free will. And Dolores Cannon talks a lot about the splitting of the two Earths. I kind of myself adhere to that. You mentioned the Germans. The Germans, they won World War II. My
Right.
understanding is that
I agree.
to the ETs, the human rulers of the planet are the Germans, not Nazis, because they don't consider themselves Nazis, and they kind of disavow Hitler. The German breakaway space civilizations and the German command, right? The hierarchy.
The clan.
Yeah, and Nachtwaffen, Darkfleet up in space.
Yeah.
And so it's like the hierarchy. My understanding is from Penny Bradley, one of our main stage presenters, is that the Germans are kind of seen as the human rulers of Earth, and then this sector is run by the Anunnaki, and then the Draco Reptilian Empire is kind of like what we're all within galactically, just within this part of the galactic arm that we're way out, as we rotate around the Milky Way. We're on one of the 8 spiral arms. We're further out on the arm, so we're one of the younger planets. All this stuff took place towards the galactic center, like the Orion Wars, things like that. And now here on Earth, the way Penny described it is kind of like, think about Earth and humanity would be like Wichita, Kansas. The Anunnaki sphere of influence would be like Kansas, okay? And then the Draco Reptilian Empire would be like the United States. And so, we're within the Anunnaki domain, within the Draco Reptilian territory. And then there are various debates as to are Galactic Federation types coming towards our solar system and helping to liberate us from the Draco Reptilians. And some people say, yes, the Dracos have been kicked out, they're gone, and da-da-da. And other people say, no, that's a lie, it's a psyop, they're still here, large and in charge. I personally think that it's kind of like a middle in between that the Dracos are slowly but surely going to get backed off of Earth, but maybe that's just hopeful, wishful thinking on my part.
Yeah. Do you think that's how religion plays the balance of what people believe and don't believe, because of the evil and the good and so forth?
Religion. So I will distinguish religion from spirituality. I'll say spirituality is really where it's at, and what exists regardless of religion. And then religion are these hierarchical structures that are socially imposed upon us to kind of control our worldview and how we function as a society. That's religion. And so I see religion as dogmatic and negative and backwards. I see spirituality as forward and progressive and free. And quite often the times the two are very often mistaken. I mean, I feel like, I'm a believer, I'm a follower, but there are a lot of things that I know I disagree with a lot of people in the Bible. Like, I believe reincarnation was written out of the Bible. And then their Bible thumpers are going to tell me I'm going to hell for even saying that. And I'm going to say, well, have you never heard of the Council of Nicaea and how they left out more books out of the Bible than the current Bible that we have to read today? All the female Gospels, their testimonies of the disciples, because there were females who followed Yahushua, and his name wasn't even Jesus. Every time you say Jesus, say Hail Caesar. Okay, you want to argue with me about reincarnation? There's a reason why people are going up to Yahshua and saying, Rabbi, are you the spirit of Elijah? Come again. Are you the spirit of Ezekiel? Come again. They were referring to reincarnation. Right. That's to me as ridiculous as people saying Jews killed Jesus. It's like, well, Yeshua, he was a Jew. So, you know, that's where that's where I get into the distinction between religion and spirituality. Religion is a tool to control
Right.
the masses and keep us down. Spirituality is what they're trying to pervert into religion, and they're trying to deny us.
Right. And you can see the perversions have been as far back in history as they are plentiful now. And this new 2024 environment that we live within. It's like the biblical context and the way of life needs to be placed back into this scenario. And that's where the tool is helping it. And that's why they're changing the rules to the tools. I mean, if something is a fact, you don't change the facts. You leave them as they are because the one creator placed them, if factually true. Otherwise, they were done by the hands of man who had the rule books to the writing and wanted it to be
even worse, Michael, per Ephesians 6:12, you know, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers of evil in higher realms. And I would say that we are indeed dealing with it's the part of why all this is so well orchestrated is because it's not just human secret societies. It's the humans who are willing to throw the rest of humanity under a bus so that they can be the elite. You know, they're answering to powers of darkness that you know, survive human lifetimes, and it's why they can be so well coordinated. Is because we're dealing with them. They're accessing the spiritual, you know, whereas most of the quote unquote normies deny the spiritual realms even exist.
right.
You know, it's not an even playing field here.
No, it's not. But they know how to manipulate us into that play field. They keep us there. They keep people there. They're not going to keep all of us there. We know to get up, walk away, go have a hamburger, not because somebody said have pizza and hot dog. You know what I mean? We're going to live a normalcy. We're not going to live an abnormalcy. And that's the kind of thing. That's how I try to base my life and what I do. It's been fun talking to you. You do know a lot of things, and I like conversations like this because it doesn't matter if it goes to a little bit different of a, you know, or a little bit different context this way, but it stays enlightenment, you know, as enlightening, and it teaches people the facts, and I think that's why I've done half as good as I have done, is because I try to utilize the elements of knowing as much as possible. You know, the thing I never cared about school. I really didn't. I didn't even make it through the first couple months in ninth grade. And the reason why, when my father asked me, and I think it was one of the only serious questions he asked me, is like, "Do you really want to be taken out of school?" I said, "They're lying about it. Something isn't adding up. It doesn't make sense." And it doesn't. And he said to me, "Well, look, I'll put you to work in my whatever. You can work there. Just know you're going to work. And I'll sign you out of school. I'll get you out of school." And I'm glad I did, because it was like this whole, like I told you, by pumping gas into Stanton Friedman's car and these steps, even though in some cases baby steps turned into the Bigfoot strides, you know what I mean? Where you just jump over so many, but you wind up meeting so many fascinating people who are like us. And we want to be surrounded by that likeness of how we think and how we can teach each other to progress the rest of our lives that we have here on this earth, and to try to make it more of a plentiful place for the children and the children's children, and a future for the humanity here before it's totally decimated.
That's right. If you're listening to this, you're probably a star seed, and you probably want a higher vibration, optimal timeline Earth. You don't like the transhumanism garbage that the other side's trying to shove down their throats. And thankfully, they're failing. People, you know, they don't want that. We don't want that. We want full disclosure yesterday and a Star Trek future now.
There you go, the Star Trek future now. And you know, I there you go, Hollywood music. I mean, so many little innuendos of so many ideas of so much that seems to be disclosure. Would you not say that somebody in the Pentagon, monies that support movies, that there are people, there are organizations within the government who are also fighting amongst each other to put certain elements, whether it's through Spielberg or one of the other greats of movie making. Because I worked in the movies, I know how that works.
Well, you mentioned Spielberg. That's a perfect example. On the one hand, it seems like there are positive elements from the Navy who wanted to release kind of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, that was based to some extent off of a real life project known as Project Serpo.
Right, Planet Serpo. Yeah.
That's right. But then on the other hand, at the same time, they're leaking positive information to Spielberg to release in his films as soft disclosure. Spielberg is accused, along with Tom Hanks, by a gal named Sarah Ruth Ashcroft for being one of these pedophile Illuminati elite directors, and Hanks being an actor, who, Sarah's father sold her at the age of 16, I think it was, to be a sex slave to these two men. And she's on the record saying this. And so it shows you how corrupt and dirty Hollywood is. So on the one hand, great, they're giving us a little bit of soft disclosure here and there in science fiction films, but I don't feel that grateful to satanic pedophile Hollywood directors who are being used to really manipulate and influence us along darker paths. I don't find myself to be that grateful to Steven Spielberg personally.
Right. I hear you, and I totally understand it. It's just how I've learned to base everything in life. It's sad that we actually are fighting a battle as big as this has become, but they were even conditioning us in ways. And there's probably many successes they even had upon us that we don't even remember that we somehow got trapped into, because it's always been by a rule book, the Ten Commandments, or the fact that driver's license are required by everybody by law, but we know the truth behind that is only commercial drivers are required to have a light driver's license, not the general population of. So you have all these scenarios, and you have that this is political but non-political intent. It's a slavery from cradle to grave.
So for me, I'm a huge fan of the sovereign citizen movement.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, I like to say, pick and choose your battles. Like I could be one of these guys where I refuse to get a driver's license, and every time the cop pulls me over, I film them and yell at them for half an hour, and then I stick it on my YouTube channel, and feel like I did something. Me personally, I feel like I want a driver's license so that when I drive to Florida to host my conference, if I was to get pulled over by the man, I'm not having to fight him and maybe get my car impounded and never make it to my conference because I am standing on the principle of refusing to get a driver's license. So I'm a pragmatist in that regard. Kind of like I'll when in Rome, I'll pay the Roman taxes as much as I have to be able to complete my mission of coming here to turn the world upside down and set it proper.
Right. To take the first steps of the agenda, like your conference 2024, and everything else can be secondary that we can argue over and fight over into the future. I mean, I think people just want normalcy of life and a sovereign life where nothing is questioned. But we do have to always, I think, base in this analogy of how we are, is there are going to be areas that are complicated, and it's best that we go with the protocols until somebody bigger and greater than us can come here and slap their fist on and say, I can fix all this.
Actually, that's the whole problem, is that as long as we're waiting for someone greater and bigger than us to come and fix a problem, we're never going to get the problem fixed. We need to reach the point where humanity collectively, or at least enough of humanity collectively, understands that we're not alone. We've been lied to. We have souls. Transhumanism, WEF, New World Order agenda is garbage, and that we're not alone. And when enough people realize that, that empowers us to kind of clean up our own act. And then that is what would enable the positive galactic types to make contact with us without violating the prime directive. So I would argue that, in fact, they're waiting for us to get our act together. As long as we're waiting for top down, big brother to fix it, we're always going to be stuck where we're at. That's my understanding from people who are contactees of the Galactic Federation types and the Galactic Court system.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I was kind of just throwing that in there as a pun, so to speak, because I don't expect anything to happen any other way. I think the only cure is humanity making the steps to make the cure. That is what I've always pushed. And I believe that. I just do. I think that we lost a certain amount of strength. We would be much further ahead of the game. But again, we somehow, and many of us were even trapped within it, and realizing that it was occurring, just going with the flow in life, because that's what life is about. If this changes, you do that. If the clock goes off, it's 8 o'clock. It's time to get up and go to work. You know what I mean? You live through something every day. You kind of go with the flow.
You're programmed. We're programmed.
Yes.
We're breaking through our programming. Yes. A lot of us are saying, take your 9-to-5 job and shove it, and that programming is breaking down, because as much as the other side is throwing everything they can at us to channel us down their New World Order path, all of their structures, their monetary system, their transportation networks, their military apparatus, all of that is falling apart as we speak. They can't maintain it anymore, even if they wanted to.
Yeah. But, as long as there's old men thinking of ways to, they will put young men and women in place to fight that battle for them, because they don't know anything but how they make money and utilize us to do it. And that's part of this evilness of whatever it is that they follow into, or these entities that they follow and basically somehow strategize together how to take these steps forward. I made the remark several times over and over. Humanity and man themselves, even women, even the most sophisticated, highest IQ people, I don't think could have put something of magnitude in place that we have witnessed in the last several years plus that have taken us here, except for the fact what it seems to be working is when we work hard on these narratives, like what you're going to do now, what I'm trying to push, so people remember to, hey, support these podcasters out there who are trying to bring you the proper messages, or the proper, let's not call it entertainment, but let's call it research to your format in your home. And we're disciplined at doing it. We don't sit there and we don't use foul proverbial language that, insults you. We're trying to give you the facts of it. So it was great having Brian here tonight. Brian has got this fascinating event coming up, and I want to go over this before we end the evening out. But I do have an early day tomorrow again. So I just want you to know that. And it's been a pleasure to have you with me. But we're going to have this event 2024 disclosure conference now, full blown, uncensored, America disclosing. Boom, here we are, both of us trying to tell you, look, consider coming to the event. It's going to be huge. And I'm sure there's hotel rooms. You got pretty much everything on the website. It refers people to everything.
We got discounted hotel rooms. We've got our early bird passes, our VIP passes, and live stream tickets. Because I know not everyone can, jump on a plane and go to Florida, but we will have live stream passes. So you can support us and join us online if you can't do it in person. And your support, think about everyone who can't make it in person, who gets live stream passes. They are literally supporting the movement. I'm paying for the conference out of my own pocket, and I don't expect to break even. We're doing this for the movement. If I take a loss, so be it. Hopefully next year will be bigger and better. And that's what I'm told is really what's destined to happen. And it's an honor and my duty to be here. And thank you for giving this airtime, Michael.
Oh, it's been a pleasure to have you. I mean, you're a very intelligent man with a lot of really good research and information. For the short period of time, I commend you for the work that you put in. A lot of people could never have put this together. And the time that you've been with us doing this and what's to come with it. So we're looking at 37 guest speakers and a couple might be added on where you're going to have different areas of different focuses of workshops. So do you want to just breeze through that at the end here in case somebody catches it halfway or whatever, and we'll do that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we're gonna have everything from like Tony Rodriguez and Arkeem Ra talking about the 20 and backs to workshops where some of them will be healing workshops or activate your psychic ability type workshops. And we've got the time on the beach, I think is gonna be really valuable. Just the beauty of nature and the special event dinners. I'm really looking forward to the humorous Ask Me Anything dinner because I'm going to put my one housemate on the spot. He's a telepath who's able to literally communicate with our dogs. There are people out there that are called animal communicators.
Yeah.
Regina Perlmutter online out of LA. She's also very good at this. And the things our dogs say are the most hilarious things. So I can't wait to share this with people.
Hmm.
Just as the ascension process, not only the disclosure process happens, people are being more awakened to our psychic abilities, our ability to dream, prophesize in their dreams, to heal each other by laying on of hands. This is a time of wonders. I'm very excited. And, a lot of people, I like to say, instead of just being in the choir, I'm a leader of the choir. That's what I aspire to.
No, thank you. Well said. Well said. But the truth is the truth. And I think you're going to have more success than you realize. I really do. I'm going to push hard for it. We're going to get this shared everywhere we can. We did have a couple blips, whatever you want to call them. They actually took me from world and put friends only or something. I don't know. I got a quick, I apologize for looking down, but they were trying to explain to me that somehow my preferences sharing got changed. Isn't that
Eh,
funny that I have someone like you on who they're trying to stifle, and I do it with a lot of people. So maybe it was a random whatever, but we're going to still get the information on. If you want to do anything prior to the event, before you leave and bring on any guest to give a little vibe, let me know. I'll be more than happy to turn on the plug and hang out with you for another hour or so. And if not, I do understand that you're pressed for time also. And I get what you're going to be doing. You're probably going to have to be there before. You're going to be the welcoming committee. You're going to be dictating for everybody. And I hope you have a lot of help there. And if I come up behind you and tap you on your shoulder, don't get nervous. It's just me. I'm
uh,
not that. I'm not the guy from Van Halen.
if you can make it, that'd be awesome, Michael. It'd be great to have you there. And if we can fit in, I'd love to do another show with you before, the next 3 weeks, the conference. That'd be wonderful. I'd love that.
Yeah, cool. It probably helped create just maybe a little bit more of a buzz. And you did say though that there is going to be a live stream too, also with this on some
Oh
point.
yeah, yes, there's definitely gonna be a live stream. Will be $55. You can buy them through our website, and we'll give you a link to Vimeo. Is where we're
Okay.
going to be streaming this. Our Facebook, they blocked our website for like 6 days, but enough of us protested it that they unblocked us. And so it goes to show that you can fight censorship on their own, on the other side's platforms and win. Yeah, they stalled us for 6 days, but we are unblocked. And by publicizing the fact that we were being censored, we gained yet more support, so it's definitely a kind of like a one-upmanship game here, fighting the
Yeah,
algorithm.
there's that commonality. The more you screw with the people, the more we retaliate back and we do get our way. And that's why we need to hang together and do the things that we do that take us in this direction. Again, I want to thank you. I do appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on. Again, you're this. this is going to be outstanding. I don't know how serious people are out in the world, but I'm going to push as hard as I can for everybody to know what's going on and that they can catch some of this clip and write it down, make memos and notes. And you let me know how you feel and what your schedule's about. We can zip on for a little bit and do whatever you want if that happens. If not, there's a pretty good shot you will see me down there. There's a lot of people I know it. And it would just be fun actually to get away for a few days and to be into an environment that I don't normally take steps into. But you're such a kind person, very hospitable. It's almost like you're talking me into it just through your eyes.
It's going to be such a great
come hang, you know.
Okay.
But it'll be
out
fun.
on the beach, get a suntan, get some sand between your toes.
God, look at my face. It's burnt today. It's pure red. It was 93 or 94 today. There wasn't much of there was natural cloud coverings. I was really shocked. I mean, and even though there was humidity, but when they use less of that,
the trails,
the air quality changes immediately when it's not there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the sun is definitely more intense these days. It's gone from a nice warm yellow to more of an angry hot white.
Yeah, exactly.
The solar maximum right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And the solar flares and coronal mass ejections are proof of that. Science, people.
Yeah, there is some science to it all. And then, in life, we deal with these things. I mean, I'm good with it. I like the sun. I'm a sun guy. I'm not a sun god. I'm a sun guy. But thanks for being here tonight. I hope to talk to you again shortly into the future. And look for it. You're going to start seeing your face everywhere.
Thank you, brother. And thank you to everyone in our audience. God bless.
All right, man. See you later. Take care, bro. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you and anyone who gets to listen and watch us. Brian Tseng is a very, very intelligent gentleman, very kind, very good heart. He's putting his life up for us to pull this event off through his own means to bring you informative researchers. And the lineup is going to be incredible. The workshops are going to be incredible. The event at the beach, the hotel where it's taking place, everything's going to be phenomenal. Top of the line. I know not everybody can afford it, but if you want to watch the event, as he said, through its streaming, there will be a live stream and you can attach yourself to that. I don't know if there's per day. Should have asked that, but I think the event is for the entirety of the event on all the researcher, lecturer, speakers. I believe he quoted that at $55. But again, this is how we get everybody together into a room and we talk. And we converse, and you're going to hear a lot of things that you probably with this conference that you wouldn't normally hear on a podcast show and so forth, because these are going to be done and articulated in a great way through good presentation. A lot of good people, big people, names that you guys know. But hey, we're all equal. We're all one, right? We're working to do this together. So thanks for joining in. We did have a couple glitches that did take effect. Somehow I got removed. Somehow I got put on private instead of world. I don't know how that happened or what occurred, but maybe Facebook decided these two guys together could be a potential problem for us. But, we're just human. We're just doing what we love to do. Thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate you, and I'll be back soon. I have some amazing guests coming.